The May Finance Committee meeting, and welcome everyone here. We have all our committee members here, Ms. Adams, Mr. McIntosh, Mr. Taylor, and myself. And we also have the other four council members, so I welcome Ms. Burke, Ms. Scipio, Mr. Larson, and Mr. Mundy. So thank everybody for being here today. We will begin as usual with the consent agenda, and Ms. Adams has asked for C1 to be pulled, and Ms. Scipio has asked for 5, 10, and 11. Are there any other items anyone would want pulled?
Chair, I move for approval of the balance of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to approve the balance of the agenda, and I believe you will be voting electronically today. So if everybody will wait till your thing comes up. Whenever you're ready. We'll just do this the old-fashioned way. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, likewise, that is approved.
There it is.
There it is. Well, mine went, okay, I'm not gonna argue with it. Okay, it's done. We will now go down in numerical order. C1, if the city clerk will please read C1.
Item C1, information on quarterly key work item, capital project, and performance indicator data.
Ms. Martin, thank you for coming up. Ms. Adams, this is yours. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, I think it's important, Chair Clark, that staff do a brief report of this so the public can hear it. Again, I know everything is online for them to read, but sometimes some of these items we actively need to participate with publicly.
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Martin.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the committee and council.
Good afternoon.
This item brings forward just an update to council quarterly related to key work items. So items on staff's work plan that goes forward every year. So what those items are, we're currently 85% of the key KWIs are marked as on schedule or completed. This item also provides an update on our capital projects as of March 31st, so the end of quarter 3. 32% of these are tracked, capital projects have been completed. So we're still tracking all of those. That includes GO bond projects and just general capital projects that are part of our CIP. Finally, this report also provides an update on key performance indicators and measures that are tracked just to provide efficiency metrics and just kind of how the workload metrics and how the city staff's doing as far as various programs that are going on citywide.
Ms. Martin, do you think it would be good if we put up that first slide that shows the projects that are completed and on hold and in process, please?
The pie chart, can someone bring that up?
Yes, ma'am. One second. Let's see. Finance. Sorry about that.
There we go. Next page. There we go. Thank you.
Could you give us a summary of the delays of why?
Okay, some of the projects, depending on what they are and where they stand, are related to they have new dates already set, and we just, staff is still going by the original schedule that had been put in place, so we still anticipate these projects being completed by June 30th of this year. However, we just have not implemented that new date that staff has put forward or that department has put forward for those specific projects. Some of it is just working with other agencies that are associated partnerships within the community for certain projects. And so we're like a prime example of that would be the Bowman Gray Stadium Field House, Union Station items, working with Winston-Salem State on those type items. Other items would be like the emergency operations plan, it's delayed, whereas the draft is completed. Staff's going through that, reviewing that one final time prior to bringing that forward for final completion. So that's kind of where we stand there. And this graph can show you that we have 30 items that are delayed, 3 that are on hold, 77 complete, and 77 on schedule total.
And all of these projects, these work items came through committee, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Most likely, yes,
And
ma'am.
you anticipate in staff that we will have completion by the end of the fiscal year?
For the majority of them, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And any items that are not completed will carry over to next year to be completed as part of the KWI process.
Do we anticipate a lot of them being carried over or just a few?
I would say just a few, but staff's working with departments right now to kind of firm up that list. Department heads are working on their KWIs for next year, creating that work plan as we proceed towards the budget process and that sort of thing to create their KWIs going into the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? This is for information only. I don't believe we need a motion on it. Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. Bear with me a minute. We will now go to the next item that was pulled, which is C5. If the city clerk will please read that one.
Item C5, resolution awarding a contract for financial advisory services for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Ms. Scipio, you had this one, I believe.
Yes,
Would you like to ask any questions or comments?
I would just like to have the public to understand what this is about.
Good afternoon, Chair Clark, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of the City Council. Every year, the city, well, every year or every other year, when the city anticipates issuing debt or reviews our debt portfolio, we have an outside third-party financial advisor who provides assistance to us in this area. The SEC, actually, the Securities and Exchange Commission, actually requires that we obtain a registered municipal financial advisor before we discuss any financing idea with an underwriter. So this is to help the city. It's a requirement, and they do both recurring and non-recurring services for the city. So they will review our debt portfolio. They will talk with us about our plans for issuance. They will offer suggestions, and then we're actually ready to issue debt. They will help meet with the rating agencies. They work with the underwriters. They just help facilitate the process. This is a 3-year agreement with a 2-year renewal.
Okay. What bonds do you anticipate us doing over the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, we are considering a LOBS package, and then we'll also be looking at 2/3. And I know there's been some discussion of a GO, but that would probably be a little bit further out.
Okay. Have we sold all the GO bonds from the 2018?
No, we do still have some remaining to be issued.
Okay. Do you know how much?
I do not have that with me. I can get that back to you, though.
Yeah, if you could.
I will.
And while you're at it, go ahead and what you anticipate the 2/3 bonds amount would be and the LOBs as well, for the
Okay.
kind of a forecast for the next 12 months or so.
Okay. You'd like me to just get that back to you then?
Yeah, and you
Okay.
just send it to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McIntosh.
Yeah, I would just compare this to the item that we just recently voted on for the school government. Good advice doesn't come cheap.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Chair, my only, again, concern for me is the demographics of the people that we contract with, that unfortunately, it looks like from the information we received, there was only one MWBE, but I would hope, and then when I look at the demographics of First Tryon, they do have one African American and, 8 females, no Latino, Hispanics, or any, and that concerns me when we looked at these companies all over the country, and we couldn't find anyone that could score better on their demographics at all. I'm concerned about that.
Unfortunately, we did not have a large response. We actually only had 2 bidders, and that's something that we're seeing in the market right now, and also hearing as well on the audit side that firms just aren't as interested right now in bidding on opportunities.
But my concern is, again, the companies that we consider or who answer our request for a proposal, the concern is their MWBE commitment. And, in the country that we live in now, again, it goes back to what we believe in. Are we going to be intentional, or are we just going to talk it? And I challenge, again, the city manager and staff that when we're looking for companies to do business with, we need to be doing business with companies that look like our whole country and just not a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? We do need a motion on this. By the way, this is the firm we've used for a number of years, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. They have merged with another firm, First Tryon Advisors, who is a large firm who does business both nationally and in North Carolina, but we do still have the same team.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Can I get something from one of the committee members?
Motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve C5, and it should come up. Thank you. That is approved. We will now go to the next item, which is C10. The city clerk will please read this one.
Item C10, resolution authorizing the implementation of the Positive Path Program and the use of existing funding to assist with youth development.
Ms. Scipio?
Again, I'd just like to have just the public and as well as other council members to know more about this program. So if you could just tell us a little bit more about it.
Our Positive Path program, our mission is to reshape the lives, to reshape the lives of those that are 16 to 24 living in Winston-Salem. We're going to be able to do this by incorporating STEM activities, which STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. During our program, each participant, which we will call apprentice, will be assigned a mentor that will help them through the process, as well as they will engage in STEM activities and NCCR construction training, which is a nationally recognized certificate.
Could you introduce yourself to the...
I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Faith Bartlett, and I would like to I'm sorry. Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Pro Temp, committee members, and council members. My name is Faith Bartlett. I'm the project supervisor of Positive Path.
Okay, thank you. Is the gentleman going to speak? And please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Troy Sneed, and I will be assisting her in this process.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Okay, any questions or comments from any of the council members?
I would like to see them go through briefly the presentation that they included in our package, if you don't mind.
Could we do that? And I believe, hang on a minute. Yeah, we'll bring that up.
You don't have to read it all, just briefly go through it so the public gets an idea of what's getting ready to take place.
Okay. So we wanted to make sure that we have a clear vision and mission statement, and that is listed. Our vision and statement is to reshape the lives through STEAM activities, mentors, hands-on training, and life skills. And we are going to assist our City of Winston-Salem youth ages 16 to 24. This was a concern in the February committee meeting, and we were able to speak to HR as well as Winston personnel, and there is specific paperwork that we need to fill out for the 16 to 17, but they will be able to be considered Winston-Salem employees. We're going to be at Minnie Lee Davis Harrison Community Center. This program is going to be for 20 weeks, for 20 hours, Monday through Thursday. Each apprentice will be paid at the city's minimum. And during that time, they will During that time, we have our weekly curriculum. So each week we'll have 3 main components. The first will be a personal and professional development skill. So as you can see, week 2, we're going to start with conflict resolution. Then we will do our construction training, and then we will conclude the week with a STEAM field trip. And this goes on to outline all of our activities.
One of the main components of the program is being able to expose these young people to things that they have no knowledge of, and being able to show them working examples, not only showing them what construction drawing looks like, but taking them over to, taking them over and having them look at, I can't think of the name. I'm sorry, y'all. It's just kind of first time doing this and a little nervous, so just kind of bear with it a little bit.
That's all right.
I
Okay.
can't even think of it. I'm just like, I just drew a total blank, and I'm like, oh, no.
Basically, what you're seeing on the screen is our written curriculum, but I think the magic of our program is going to be the mentors and the real-life examples. So we're going to teach you how to use a hammer, and then we're going to go out to a specific site. We're going to connect with rec, and then we're going to use that hammer to rebuild benches and any type of repair. So the main thing that we're going to do is teach, and then we're going to provide those real life examples.
Would you anticipate these folks working for the city upon completion?
That would be that is our purpose, is to kind of try to build a pipeline. Also try to utilize the money that we're spending to give them skills, and these skills to be transferable to these different city departments. That would be ideal, so we can take these funds that we're using and turn around and put these people that we're spending our tax dollars back into the city of Winston-Salem.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Scipio.
How many young people are you expecting to impact?
During our first phase of the program, we are actually going to have 18 participants. It's going to be divided into 2 classes of 9 each. We hope to learn from this first program and be able to expand.
So it says that somewhere here it's about $11,000 per person is the investment?
Yes.
Okay. And these are not necessarily dropouts from school. Who are these young people that you're going to be supporting? Where do they live? What do they do? How do you define who can go into this program? Are there any criterias that would prevent anyone from not being in the program?
Okay, so for one, you have to live in the city of Winston-Salem, and we're looking for, and I kind of hate using the term at-risk youth, because I believe every person is at risk of not reaching their potential, but we try to look for people that there are warning signs that they are going down the wrong path. What we're trying to do is we're trying to target a group of individuals to catch them before they get in the system. We want to try to direct them somewhere else. We want to touch on different various things to just get them engaged in different things, because I know sometimes when you're young, if you don't have something you're working towards, you tend to get caught up in this, that, or the third. So we're trying to direct them is what we're trying to do.
So you do have some type of criteria that you're going to select these young people on?
Yes, ma'am.
Listed on the job description, in addition to being 16 to 24 and living within the city limits, you'll have to be a youth or adult offender. You will have to either be low income, and you have to have a guardian or a caregiver that has been incarcerated, or you're either currently or a former foster care.
Okay. Now, how are you going to measure any change? If they're coming in, do you do some type of baseline assessment, and then they go through this curriculum, and then there is an expected performance at the end of this investment of close to $11,000? Do they get certificates? That they can take with them, or how do you measure that the program was indeed effective?
So yes, we have different ways of tracking it. We're going to do a bunch of pre and post tests to see, what knowledge they have gained, and there are opportunities to go into different tracks depending on which track they go in, depending on if there's a certification, or some of them would just continue on into like these different trades. So like we're looking at trying to help individuals learn things like coding, as well as we have some electronics. We're partnering with the Mixer and various organizations to try to get them skills, because one thing we realize is people with skills that have the ability to make a living for themselves, most of the time those aren't the ones that are into the stuff because they have something to do. But that's why we're targeting the youth, because so what we've been hearing is that's what's happening, is they don't have enough to do. Their mind is running, and they just continue to just have time to get into things. So that's what we're definitely looking forward to that.
And just to add, in addition to the pre and post test, they will be able to earn their GED if they do not have it already. That's a self-paced online course. They will also be able to earn the NCCR, which is a nationally recognized construction certificate. And they will also be able to enter Foresight Tech's short-term training program. Foresight Tech has a program called Jobs Now, where they have training for the in-demand fields in the area.
That is excellent. It's good to know that they'll come out with some type of certification that they can transfer to something else and become very positive. So, and I do hope you will plan to monitor or track them for at least 5 years after the program to
Okay.
see if it really was sustained. Thank you.
Any other question, Ms. Taylor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council and committee. As you know, this program started out as Youth Build, but as collectively as a staff and as a council, we thought that, our young folks in our community should be focusing on construction, focusing on things other than construction. So we landed on also science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Having spent my entire life, well, let me say, you all know my story. I'm born and reared in this community, but spending my whole entire life working in youth intervention and delinquency prevention, these are the types of programs that we need to move the needle forward. We know in many of our communities they've experienced some challenges, and I think this is the program that's going to be helpful. So we're starting off with 18. We'd like to see that increase, and we'd like to touch as many people going forward. I just want to take a moment and thank Mr. Taylor and his team, Ms. Bartlett, Mr. Sneed for putting this program together. We're hoping to save a lot of lives and do a lot of good. So thanks for the council's support. We discussed this, I believe, at length in February. They came back, made the tweaks, and I think this is acceptable, and I'd ask for your support moving forward.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any other questions or comments? If not, if everyone on the committee will please vote when it comes up.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I would also hope, and Chair Taylor, Public Safety, that we get an update, whether it's every 3 months, 2 months, at least so we have an idea coming through your committee as to how successful we're being.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I didn't see the results. Was this passed? Okay. Must have come up quick. Okay, we'll do the last item on consent, C11. If the city clerk will please read this one.
Item C11, resolution approving the FY23 Housing and Community Development Program and authorizing submission of the 2022-2023 annual plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Who's going to present this?
Ms. Parker.
Melvin Parker. Ms. Parker.
Okay. You have the floor if you could give us a brief presentation on this. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Chairman Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and committee, Melvin Parker, Community Development. This afternoon, the item that I'm presenting is a resolution approving the FY28 Housing and Community Development Program, and authorizing the submission of the 2022-23 Annual Action Plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The City of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Consortium is currently completing the fourth year of the 2019-23 Consolidated Housing and Community Development Plan. The City Council plan is composed of the Annual Action Plan for the fifth year of the plan, 2022-23. Normally, the plan is submitted in May 15. However, the submission is going to be delayed because Congress has not passed the government's budget. The annual plan will be submitted no later than June 30th, 2022. Since the plan has not been published by the federal fiscal year of 2022, this year's budget is being based on this year's allocation. So the Community Development Block Grant Plan, Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership, Emergency Solution Grant, Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS, which is HOPA, will be based on this year's allocation. CDBG funds of $2,168,157. Home funds of $1,348,537, which the city will receive $1,065,337,000. Forsyth County will receive of that $283,200. ESG funds of continuing care on behalf of the agencies will receive continuing care, on behalf of the local agencies providing homeless program services beginning April 23rd. The city also expects to receive an additional $211,400 in additional funds of ESG funds from the state of North Carolina during the fiscal year of 2023. I'm not going to go into full details, but during this fiscal year, we are required to hold public hearings. I have a slide presentation to give you a breakdown of how the presentation was made to the public. Can you, that's here. The PowerPoint.
This one. Then that's all that's in there. There's not in here.
Okay.
This is the CARF resolution, and I pulled up these two, so it's not in the presentation.
I apologize, I can give you the percentages. Of the Community Development Block Grant Funds, 44% of the CDBG of the housing rehab will be spent on housing. That is $1,143,707. Economic self-sufficiency will be an estimated $90,000, which is 3.4% of the funds will be spent towards self-sufficiency. Neighborhood revitalization, $669,210,000, which is 25% of the budget. Public service, $323,700 of the total budget of CDBG funds. Which is 12.4%. And planning admin, which is $331,540,000, which is 14% of the budget. Under the home allocation, which is an estimate of $1,498,537. Housing rehab is $509,437,000, which is 34,000, which is 34% of the program budget. Housing production and assistant, $228,000, which is 15.2% of the home budget. Choto set aside, $203,000, which is 13.6% of the budget. Forsyth County, which is our partner under the home program, which is our consortium, will receive $283,200, which is 18.9%. Tenant-based rental assistance, which is the funding for tenant-based rental assistance that we provide to halls to help with tenant-based rental assistance, which is 16% of the funding from the home program. Administration is 2.3%, which is $34,900. Again, these are estimates until we get our actual allocation, which we anticipate to receive from HUD within the next 2 weeks. The actual funding amounts will be presented back to council before the actual budget comes to go back to HUD. Under the Hopper program, last year, the city of Winston-Salem became an entitlement city, which is is a very good thing. For several years, the 5 counties were awarded Hopper funds by the state. So to become an entitlement city under the Hopper funds mean that we receive funding directly from from HUD. Under this program, we'll be receiving $710,304. This program, we will be providing tenant-based rental assistance, $409,608, which is 57.7% will go towards rental assistance. Short-term rental mortgage and utility funds, $70,108, which is 9.9% of the funds. Permanent housing placement, $19,456, which is 2.7% of the funding. Resource identification, $2,446, which is 0.3%. Supportive services, $66,450, which is 9.4%. Administration, $19,980, which is 2.8%. Undesignated funds, $122,256, which is 17.2%. Looking at this allocation, The majority of these funds will be looking at housing, new construction, or housing for redevelopment of some sort. Before these funds are allocated, projects will come back to City Council for approval.
Ms. Adams had a question.
Yes, on your presentation on page 14, the one that talks about Part C, projected revenues and expenditures, at the bottom, prior year fund budget commitments, carryover funds.
Yes, ma'am.
Could it be said that these are monies that we did not spend, or that, you know, they are already allocated to the different categories? Did we spend it?
How have we spent those?
I think she said, why do we have that much prior
Carryover.
year carryover?
It says we have 1.750 million. Is that correct? On page 14.
Okay. Let me see. In some cases, there may be projects that have not been completed. I would have to go back and look at that and get back with you, if that's okay.
That would be fine, but one of the 2 or 3 observations I have, and Ms. Parker, you and I know each other. I don't want to put you on the spot.
I know.
But when we present this information, Ms. Tony, Mr. Garrity, as I've said since I've been on this council, even when we get these amendments and documents and packages for us to review, we do that. But when we come to committee, Chair Clark and other chairs, again, I'd like to see you guys have a short list of what really needs to be communicated when you're asked to come forward, so the public can get it all in one bite at a level that they understand it. Just one slide. It might be 2 slides, but I think we need to do that as we go forward. But I would like to know again about, and you can get that information to us before Monday. Is this being presented in general government tomorrow, is it not? I think I'd like to have that tomorrow, an explanation of the carryover money of the 1.750 million, and why and how and what we're going to do with it. Or if we've already done something or committed it to something. I think the council needs to know that in a breakout. Because one of the things we're learning, and the public and staff and everyone, the council needs to be able to see those type details in order to make decisions as we go forward, especially when it comes to the housing crisis that we have, as well as community development, economic development, and crime, and anything like that coming out of HUD, North Carolina Finance, or anything.
All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Parker.
All right.
Ms. Tony, if you could, because that committee meets tomorrow, some type of executive summary, and then I do think it's important to understand why we have carryover. Sometimes if you don't spend it, you lose it, so in this case, it looks like you can carry it over. But just be helpful to have some information there.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have some other council.
Oh, excuse me. I haven't looked to the right lately.
You got to look to the right.
Ms. Scipio, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Parker, for your presentation. The attachment that's in our packet on I have a question between page 14, which where Pro Tem alluded to. On that particular page, it says, let me get there.
You're talking about their presentation, page 14.
Page 14, the total program, FY23 programmatic resources are $10,217,603. However, on page 4, it says that the total activity costs are, and funding sources are $9,207,603. I'm just trying to figure out why is there a difference in what am I missing? So if you can have that for Monday to just sort of explain what that is. Thank you very much.
Also,
Go ahead.
to answer one question, and I will have that sheet, but Mayor Pro Tem Adams, with federal funds, you can carry over money from one fiscal year to the next, and we do have 3 years of the allocation that we did for the CNI for the halls money. So we've got 3 years of the $500,000 that we have for the CNI project. So we have 3 years that we're anticipating spending very quickly soon. So a part of that 1.7 is 3 years of 500,000 that we will be drawing down. So that will bring that 1.7 down very quickly. And I can also go back and look at what other projects that will add to that 1.7. In addition to that, what we have allocated this year within the CARF, we're getting ready to add another 500,000 to the upcoming year for the CNI. But just presently, under that 1.7 is 3 years of 500,000. So I will get you a sheet for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mundy.
I have a question specifically for HOPWA funds.
Yes,
I know that is distributed through Positive Wellness Alliance.
it is.
They're based in Davie County, or rather Davidson County, and they tend to have a regional outlook. They also manage Ryan White money. The amount listed here, is that specifically for Winston-Salem city residents, or is that an amount that they use across a variety of geographic needs?
It is 5 counties, but the money that they use here must be in for Winston-Salem.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Do we need to approve this?
Oh,
Yes, can I get a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. And this will also come to your committee tomorrow.
Yes.
Do we want to hold a vote on
Yes,
that?
yes,
Do we want to hold a vote on this tonight
I
to?
think we do.
Yeah, I still have some questions, so why don't we just hold this in our committee, and I will mandate Ms. Adams to move it forward from her committee.
Thank you,
Is that okay?
Fair enough.
thank you.
Okay. That finishes consent. We will now go to the general. We have 2 items there. The city clerk will please read G1.
Item G1, consideration of items relating the permanent financing for the flats at Peters Creek.
Who's going to present this one? Okay, if you'll tell us about this one, and I think everybody should have read it, but this is the land where the old hotel used to be right there at Academy and Peters Creek. It's been cleared. It's vacant now. There's a new, I think it's a Kia or some auto dealership next to it. But if Ms. Parker, if you please present this for us.
Good afternoon. Melon Parker. This is a resolution authorizing permanent financing for a 72-unit family rental development known as the Flat at Peters Creek. It is in the Southwest Ward. The developer is asking for gap financing for this project. They have an application with the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. The total project for development is $15,128.27. Our funding will be gap financing, and the again, number of units is 72, of which 18 would be 30% below medium. 54 will be 31 to 60% of medium, again, 72 units.
What's the total city commitment on this project?
1.1.
I'm looking at on the, can we bring up it's the staff, ARF, I guess we call it, page 2. To the next page, please. Yeah, where is the city money in that 15.1 million?
It is the 500,000.
Yeah, I see that one, but y'all said 1.3 total?
1.1.
1.1, where's the other city money on here?
It says in the.
Well,
paragraph right
initially, the
before
city
that.
put in 600,000 earlier,
Get the land.
which we're not counting in this part of the development phase.
Land acquisition and tear down.
That was acquisition in the
So we've
beginning.
already spent 600,000, and this is what's left. They need another 15.1 million,
Yes.
of which we're going to give additional 500,000.
If they receive the tax credit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know those are very competitive. Do we have any idea what's the probability of getting it?
Do we have any idea how many others?
Yeah, how many other people are applying or anything?
Anybody?
Anybody want to take
I can
a
speak to
stab?
that. Councilmember Clark?
Yeah.
I mean, just because I've been in some of these conversations, the likelihood is pretty slim.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It does not score as well on several of the matrices as more suburban projects, which is a concern, but that's the way the
Okay. I do know that
credits are written.
throughout a given fiscal year for us, we may appropriate funds for several, hoping that one would get it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Comment.
Go ahead.
Just overall, if this goes forward and the project is done, we'll have $1.1 million into a project that produces 72 units. That's $15,000 per unit subsidy from us. Those are the kind of deals we want to do.
True.
I mean, I don't know how many of them come along, but that's a sweet spot for me as far as being able to leverage 72 units, 54 at 60% of AMI, and 18 at less than 30% or less. I mean, those are great numbers. I hope we can get the deal done.
Okay, Ms. Adams?
And the fact that the affordability is in there for 50 years. But didn't we just vote on the Choice Neighborhood Initiative application for us to be able, for them to be able to apply for the North Carolina Housing Finance? We signed off on that one too. And that's why it's such to get money from them for tax credits, it's just a tough deal. But, you know, again, we've already invested $600,000. And as Councilman McIntosh said, the cost of 72 units of affordability for 50 years is priceless.
Okay, Ms. Mundy?
Just speaking from the Southwest Ward, since this is on the edge of the Southwest Ward, I was also just very aware of this project and personally know a lot of the people who first started this and were engaged in the getting the old hotel demolished. I hope we can support this specific request, and knowing that the chances are slim for a tax credit, I would love to see us work towards helping them find some other sources of funding, whether that comes from ARPA money or what. Particularly since we got rid of one blight, but now we've left another there. That's, you know, the undeveloped land on the corner there is just not attractive at all, and I just want us to push to get this working class housing, affordable housing, and get that corner developed just as soon as we can.
Ms. Tony, at your convenience.
The developer is here.
Oh, the developer is here? Sir, would you like to come up and make any comments you'd like? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you. I didn't know you were here. If you'll please give your name and address for the record.
Of course. Good afternoon. My name is Linwood Davis, and I'm one of the developers that's working on this project, and I really appreciate y'all taking time to consider it today. And I do have a little bit more information that will be updated and hopeful for you, I do believe. One thing I do need to correct is we are putting in an application for the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency for tax credits. We've had to reduce the size on that to 62 units. So instead of 72 units, we are back to 62 units. However, I'm a developer in town, and the people that originated this project is a group called the PCCI, and there are several different folks in town that are involved with the PCCI, includes Habitat for Humanity, Green Street, the Shalom Project, and what have you. They're not professional developers, and so I'm working in the background with another fellow, Richard Angino, and we're helping them to work with the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and get their application in shape so that it can actually work. And as you know, we've been working on this for a few years now to actually get this into fruition. One thing that you may not be aware is, are the chances that this project can get awarded, does it look slim? And it has been slim. And we've put in a couple of applications at my personal and our personal expense for the past couple of years to get this done. North Carolina Housing Finance Agency actually changed its rule book and on how they award stuff for this year. And so they used to have criteria on, say, what's the poverty rate in the census area that you're there. And that killed us every year. It really put us at the bottom of the heap. This year, their criteria has been what's called a walk score. And so they go to walkscore.com to try and figure out, they want projects that are walkable this year. I don't understand the algorithm behind walk score or what have you, but that actually took us from the bottom of the heap to the top of the heap. So we've actually I've been in this business for about 18 years, and so we actually have a very good handle. We do a FOIA with North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. We look at all the competition, and we look at all the applications that are out there this year. And we are in the pole position this year. So we are, it's our own money, and we put it in it, and we're going to get an award this year. So we are very, very, we're crossing our fingers. Things can change. And in fact, they changed some rules just last week. So something can come up. But right now, as it sits, we are number one to get awarded this year. And I appreciate your understanding that this is housing that goes for 30 to 60% of the area median income. So we like lots of developers, and we need all kinds of development in Winston-Salem. But some developments say, well, we're going to have a set aside of our units for maybe 80%, and it's only a few units that's there. And this whole project is 100% affordable for all the units that are going to be there. So we appreciate y'all understanding that and appreciate y'all being supportive of this. Thank y'all very much.
I'm assuming it's your parents I might know?
Very well may. I'm a junior.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Carmen, you had a comment. Hold tight, Mr. Davis, stay there.
Certainly.
Some other questions, go ahead.
Just for the record, the restrictive covenants actually require 72 units, so if that's approved, then at some point, council will need to amend the restrictive covenants. So keep that in mind.
I appreciate that. We are putting in it, so as you all understand, inflation has gone through the roof and interest rates are going through the roof. And that is having a major impact on what we've had. So we've actually had to scale back to make sure that this project will still work to 72. So I appreciate that note very much.
So you know.
Thank you. Ms. Scipio.
Mr. Davis, appreciate you being here. Got a quick question on the data, the information sheet we have. You're requesting $500,000 from the city, but it says additional funds to be determined of $500,000. Do you have a sense of where they're coming from, or does this need to be changed?
We are, we're proceeding forward. We do have another gap of $500,000 that's there. And we are scratching and clawing all around town. There are probably 3 or 4 different avenues that I would say are promising for doing that. But we're still proceeding forward as is. With these types of things, you have to go, particularly, we're going to be getting $10 million in financing from the state. We cannot afford, we have to proceed. We want to take that money and proceed forward and solve that problem as best we can later on.
Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The South Ward, of course, is right across the street, and I've watched this project, and we've all hoped to see the building come down, which it did, and the city supported that. And I applaud your efforts to generate the additional funding from the housing folks in Raleigh. It's been a slog, I know that, but you've been persistent about it, and I applaud that. And it looks like maybe we've got something going. You can't fish unless you got lines in the water. So I appreciate you putting that line in the water and consistently working on that. This is an important project for the city, particularly important for the Peters Creek Parkway project. And it's a pivotal part of the connection there in Academy Street, Peters Creek, and I'm really anxious to see something happen there.
We appreciate that very much. And like I said, we're developers that are working in the background. We've spent our own money on this. We're citizens in Winston-Salem. We are doing this because it is an important project, and it's our own capital. We're the ones that are guaranteeing it, and we're the ones that have spent endless time. It's been a community effort to get this done, and we really appreciate everybody's spending time and helping bring this to fruition. And I think we're there.
Mr. Mundy?
One of the things that we didn't mention is Mr. Davis and is it Angino or Angino?
Angino.
Angino also developed Essex Place on Kester Mill Road, which has been, I think, real successful. I met with them before the construction was completed and was very impressed by what they've done to really provide affordable housing. And we know that there are very few developers who want to approach affordable housing. So thank you for doing that. And also just to mention, as you beg, borrow, steal, and scratch for that other $500,000, if you go anywhere and you would benefit by having the council member from Southwest Ward go along with you or help out in any way, please let me know.
I appreciate that very much, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. In fact, we placed that into service this year, and we encourage any of y'all to go take a look at it. It's on Kester Mill. You'll get a sense of these are very professionally managed projects, and it was sold out before we even finished it. That's how big the demand is out there for this type of housing product.
Okay, Mr. McIntosh?
Yeah, I just wanted to update my numbers. With 62 units, it's $17,700 per unit from the city contribution side.
Yes, sir.
So it's still within, a ballpark of where we want to do deals.
Thank you.
Ms. Carmen?
One last note. The Declaration of Restricted Covenants requires the units be ready for occupancy within 4 years of execution, and the date of execution is May 8th, 2019, so that will probably need to be amended by council as well.
Amended. So
Keep that in mind.
the timetable would be, we are the #1 position to get funded this year.
Okay.
And then what we would do is we would begin construction in about this time in 2023, and we would be placing it in service at about this time in 2024 is where it is. So we probably have some paperwork that we need to do.
Yes, you do.
And I appreciate you bringing that up.
If I could
I get a motion.
get a motion and a second, then I'll make a comment. Do we have a
I
motion?
move for approval of this resolution along with the additions and edits that the city attorney has advised.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. What I would suggest, we're going to vote on this in a minute. I have a feeling it's going to pass. But I would suggest that Ms. Tony get up with Ms. Carmen and maybe talk through. We can certainly take some corrections to the motion Monday night. We're just a committee. This will, if we approve it, it goes to next Monday night, which is somebody help me, 20th or something?
16th.
16th. Wasn't even close. Anyway, in this same room. And at that time, we can certainly do some technical corrections. And Ms. Tony is the lady sitting right there. If y'all could be sure y'all exchange phone numbers. With that, if the committee will please vote on this one. That is approved. So, Ms. Davis, thank you for your commitment to the city, and staff will be chatting with you. Ms. Tony, the question I was going to ask earlier, and I don't need this by Monday night, I would just be curious how many of these tax credit projects the city of Winston-Salem has been awarded over the last number of years. They're very, very competitive. I just want to be sure that it's a fair process, so we're getting whatever our fair share should be. But let's find out how many we've gotten first.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And Mr. Davis, we'd like you to tell all your friends about that we're in the housing business too. And any of you that want to do business with the city, we will be more than happy to as we try to undertake this crisis situation with housing.
Okay, last item is G2. If the city clerk will please read this one.
Item G2, resolution of purchasing public safety cameras and installation services.
Okay. You have the floor, Tom.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of council. We're going to tag team in collaboration with Winston-Salem PD and IS, but we're still one team, but we're going to tag team. So, thank you. The item for you tonight is really a follow-up from an item you all approved in January. So we put I know you all got this for the public's sake. I want to kind of say what it's about. We put an RFP on the street back in the fall, and we had 360-plus cameras, and we had a support contract in place for a couple years, and that was expiring. We put an RFP in the street, and the RFP had three components. The first component being 24/7 support of our existing cameras. The second component of the RFP was professional services to assist with walkthroughs. So if we're going to add a rec center, for example, the vendor would walk with us, members of PD, and in this case, William Royson's team, and they would provide those services and help us engineer where to put the cameras. And then the third component was a price list of 12 different types of cameras that was actually in the RFP, and they had to provide prices, and they had to commit to honor those prices for a duration of the 3 years. Call 24 was our recommendation. We brought it to you in January. You approved it. Full council approved it. And we executed a $22,000 contract that the manager executed for the support piece, that first component. We have since executed a change order of $70,000 to help us get going on the Kyle Russell cameras, as well as the cameras at the Grand Pavilion. And what bring here tonight is, as you see in your, and I'm going to show you a quick slideshow. But we have a lot of other sites that we'd like to keep moving on. We have funds in our budget. And then I'll hand off to my friends, and they'll do a quick demo of what these cameras mean to the real-time crime center. I'll stop there if there's any questions about the CARF. If not, I can proceed with walking through the slideshow.
Please proceed with the demo.
Pardon?
You may proceed.
Thank you.
Do questions at the end.
So, if I can see. So the first slide you see is an existing, these are our existing cameras as of today, 367. And I'm not going to read the count, but you can see they range from this facility to across the street to the Stewart Building, over to Lowry, the Benton I mentioned, parking decks, fairgrounds, and then landfills. And then 3 rec centers now today have cameras. So as of today, we have 367 cameras, and that's what Call 24 supports today, working with our staff. This is just a quick picture of where these cameras are distributed today, kind of show where we got them throughout the city. Next slide is probably more important. This is why we're here today. These are the projects that we're working on today, and these are the estimates. I will mention, so on the left side is the sites that we're working on, and you see the 12 rec centers and the fairgrounds and Fire Station 13, the meter shop, Mercial, and the quarry. The middle column is our estimates. I will say when we did the bonds project in 2018, we had $30,000 in the budget for this type of work. I put 35 for tonight, not that I'm asking for more, but when we did MLK, it came in a little high, so we just learned from lessons. We also were able to implement 14 for under 30, so I think 35 is a very safe estimate. The right column is, you see the funding source where you see bonds. It should say 2018 bonds. And then the rest is from operating money. And then obviously this next slide just kind of depicts where those cameras we put in play once we implement all these projects. This slide, this kind of goes back to Councilmember Larson talked about if you can't catch a fish, if you don't put the line in the water. So maybe I'm putting the line in the water a little bit here. There's 3 ways that we connect cameras to our network, which ultimately leads to the real-time crime center. One is to our direct connection to our city fiber, and we have almost 130 miles of fiber that we implemented back about 7-8 years now that council approved. And that's our primary network and fiber. But when we got into Winston Square, it was just too expensive to get those cameras connected to the fiber because they're coming down the street and then working with the utilities such as Duke Power. So we implemented a cellular connection at Winston Square, and we have 2 cameras, and there's a closet in the back of the stage. We have a router in the back, and it shoots up to the satellite, and ultimately gets to the real-time crime center. That type of connection works, but it's spotty. It's not. It's kind of like your cell phone versus your home phone, and it's not. The cost doesn't go away. You're paying someone monthly fees. We got the corporating. The goal was pretty obvious. We were just going to run down First Street and connect to the City Hall facility. And then we started drilling and doing some trenching and found a lot of rock. And it was just going to be 6 figures to even get 1 block over to Corporate Plaza. But we used this new technology called fluid mesh or wireless radio signal. And I should mention all these cameras on the real-time crime center we're talking about. If I can jump to the next slide. So the way corporating is working today, you'll see up in the left-hand corner, there's 4 cameras in corporating up here. These 3, I guess you can see that. These 3 cameras here in the southwest, northeast, and northwest. These 3 cameras bounce their image back to the top northwest camera. And there's a line of sight over to the top of Stewart Building. We have antennas posted. And from there, we run the video across the street to the top of this building, down into our data center, and ultimately to the real-time crime center. And I bring this up, this technology, just because it leaves a lot of potential. Imagine if we put these antennas on top of water towers or our 14 radio towers. Imagine if we put this antenna on top of the Winston Tower, where we can do a cameras. And I will mention that even if I'm behind, say I'm at, Spruce Street, the Haynes Brand Theater, and I can't see the tower because I'm behind the building, I can still point down the street to, I guess that's Spruce and 2nd Street. I have antenna there which can see Winston Tower. So this technology opens the door to a lot of potential. Again, just putting that line in the water. I'm going to stop there before we slide into the PD folk, unless you got any questions for me or IT.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Adams.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank all of you for continuing to always strive to work to make our citizens safer and better. My question is about the requests for the other places, areas, and maybe it's not on here because it's not finished, but what about Long Creek Park?
I don't know where that's at, but it's been talked about. There's actually a few sites we've talked about just since I put the slideshow together. I'll give you an example is the Black Theater Festival. PD has asked if we can help there, and we're looking, just had a walkthrough last week, we're looking at cameras up and down 4th Street, and then over in, I guess, Trade is it's 7th, 8th, and 9th, that street. So there's other potential opportunities, the parks for sure. So these are projects we know, well, they're in my work plan, it's a key work item, but we know we have funding. And I will mention, you see all these funds are either bonds funding or in the case of Fairgrounds and Haynes Mill and the meter shop, there are other departments. We actually have some funds in the IS department budget this year and next year's proposed budget to continue some of these additional sites that are coming up. So yes, potential's there.
And I'm going to direct this to the city manager. Again, I know that the park is not anywhere close to being finished, but it will be one of the largest parks in the city, and it's on the north end. And I just want you to keep that in mind, that the residents and the citizens, they want to be or feel safe, and that our Winston-Salem PD and emergency responders can get there when needed once that park is finished, because that's just another area like the Quarry and Winston Lake, Haynes Park, the bigger parks, Salem Lake, and those type areas, and it's going to be used because they've never had one. So I just need you to keep that in mind, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Chairman Clark, members of the City Council. It will be included. I just talked to Mr. Taylor as well. I didn't see Carl Russell on the list, and that's an oversight as well because it's under renovations. At $35,000 a site, which is I think what Mr. Kreska has put up there. It's a very cost-effective way. As many of you know, we're short police officers. We only have, I think, still one park ranger at the moment. And they can't cover all those parks, so we'll be aggressively adding cameras.
Thank you, thank you.
The quarry's a great example. Mr. Royston, and we've been working with him, and, we could not get fiber down to the quarry because of the cost. But what we're doing now is we're looking to put a pole up out in the quarry, and he'll have all his cameras come back to that pole. And guess what? The pole can see the Winston Tower. So we're looking at different options.
Okay, we got a number of questions. I'll just start down here. Mr. Larson, I'll just come on down. Go ahead.
Thank you, Robert. One area, are these parks and recreation sites that have been targeted for this first round, are they based on crime on those sites, or what was the criteria that was used?
These really were part of the 2018 bond renovation projects, the upgrade.
The reason I'm asking that is I know, for example, Bethabara Park has had some actual vandalism and activity out there, and I'm wondering why it's not on the list.
Well, right now, actually, they reached out to me about 3 days ago. Those projects aren't funded yet, and we haven't looked at, but William Royce and I are scheduling a meeting to actually walk through Bethabara, and that's another one of those.
The question I'm asking is from priority perspective, if we know there's crime at a particular location, would they not get some priority instead of the other parks perhaps that are?
Well, that's not really my decision, but we got the priority, and this isn't the order we're going in necessarily, this sheet, I should mention that.
The ones that we're seeing in front of us now are not the ones that are...
No, these aren't the order that we're attacking. We do have a priority 1 through 12 that's been given us by Recreation Management.
The question I'm trying to get to is where's Bethabara in all of this?
There's been nothing approved yet for that as far as funding. We haven't really even done a walkthrough. But that is on our...
I think if we have a record of crime out there, we should be looking at it.
Well, like I say, they just reached out to me last week, and I talked to William. We're going to schedule a meeting to do a walkthrough. They have called me and contacted me just literally within the last few days.
Well, let's see what we can do.
Understood.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Scipio, do you have a comment?
Yes, just a little comment, or actually a question. On all existing cameras, it says Winston Lake Golf Course. And then on the proposed, it says Winston Lake Golf Course. Is the thinking that the entire park is Winston Lake Golf Course? Because where we have our shelters, picnic shelters, the lake, they need to have cameras if they don't have it already. And I don't know if that was considered the actual park area that's not the golf course is where the new cameras would be going.
Yes, we're looking at, right now, the existing are in the facility. They've actually been used to help solve some crimes, but we're looking to expand those to the exterior as well. So, yes.
So the extra ones, the newer ones are the park area?
Yes,
That's
broader range.
And not the golf course?
Well, the whole area, yeah, the broader range, that whole area.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, do you have a question, comment?
2 or 3 part question. The $35,000 per park, and if you said this, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. How many cameras will that provide, and are they internal or external?
It really ranges. I mean, I don't mean not to give you an answer, but it really depends on the size of the area, the location of the cameras. You know, for example, I've got the price list here, and these prices for these cameras range from $238 to what's called a fixed dome indoor, all the way up to $1,900 for an indoor. So it really depends on the type of cameras we use. And that's why we have to take PD with us, because they know what they want to see in the crime center. But I really can't tell you how many cameras. I do know that we came in with 14th and Haynes were a little less than 30,000, and MLK was 35,000. So I bumped this up a little bit for the estimates. Again, the original 30 was from the 2018 bonds, and prices have gone up. The nice thing is Call 24 is committed to these prices for 3 years.
And if we add additional parks that need cameras, does that mean that the estimated 35,000 goes down because we have to divide a finite amount of money to those additional parks? Or are we going to determine what the needs are at each park and then budget that amount of money?
I'd like to think that these budgets aren't impacted, that if another park comes up, some funding source is identified.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Adams?
I was going to make a motion.
Okay, just hold a minute. Let me
Okay.
get Mr.
Tom, I just wanted to ask you about, in the past, we've talked about allowing residents and private businesses to tie into our system. Is that functioning? Are we, in fact?
They're going to speak to that.
Okay, great.
They're actually going to do a demo of the cameras.
Perfect.
Okay, Ms.
Not that I
Perkins,
wouldn't want to answer, but they're the experts.
Let me hold off on the motion. Y'all going to do a demo, right?
Correct.
Why don't y'all go ahead and do that, and then we'll
So
get.
I'm going to let them speak to the remaining 2 slides.
Okay.
Well, 3 slides. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Amy Galden with the Police Department, and this is Detective Ferguson, who's going to help me out with the demo.
Good afternoon.
So most of you are familiar with the Real-Time Crime Center project we started at the Police Department, and in January 2021, we started a temporary Real-Time Crime Center in a small space that we had available just to really prepare us for full implementation of the permanent space, which we got a grant for to be grant funded and hopefully will open sometime this summer or late fall. The temporary space with the existing camera infrastructure so far has proven very effective. It's been successful in helping us generate a variety of investigative leads that have allowed us to solve several violent crimes, including homicides, non-fatal shootings, and things of that nature. So it's been very instrumental in our investigations to this point. So only adding additional cameras is going to truly help us out in providing public safety for the community. The additional cameras planned by Tom and his team will also be integrated into the Real-Time Crime Center. So it will also increase our efficiency and effectiveness, again, by providing public safety to the citizens and the rest of the community. Just a little background about the Fusus platform, which we're using in the Real-Time Crime Center and that we partnered with various other city departments on to bring camera assets into the platform. It basically unifies a public-private platform. So we can take any public-private assets, video assets, and incorporate that into the Real-Time Crime Center. It allows us to improve security by doing that. We're able to enhance what the services we provide. We can provide information to first responders or other public safety who are responding to a critical incident or any other kind of crime for that matter. It also enhances our ability to ensure the safety of citizens and our employees at some of these facilities that we'll show you. Some of them are city-owned facilities. It also enhances our situational awareness, so we're able to provide information real time to those people responding to the incidents here, and be able to give them, information as to what kind of scenario they may be responding to, safety information as to victims or injuries or anything of that nature. In addition, it allows us to effectively manage our resources. So we're also able to see our resources on the Fusus platform, which I'll show you in a second. But it allows us to see them real-time AVL. So if we have an incident, we can pull them up and see where they're at, whether it be police, fire, anything like that. And most importantly, it really breaks down silos. So by partnering with City IT on this project, it has allowed us to bring in a lot of disparate, systems throughout the city, say Parks and Rec, fire, police, and all those assets into one. So we're able to really help more than just the PD, but public safety in general. Okay, good. And this next slide is just giving you a brief overview of the Fusus system. It kind of gives you a picture of what can be brought in. So for example, of vehicles, body camera footage, private camera feeds, public camera feeds. It also allows us to bring in ShotSpotter, the alerts that we have from ShotSpotter. So if we have a ShotSpotter alert, for example, it populates on the Fusus One platform, and then Detective Ferguson or another detective in the Real-Time Crime Center can immediately see what cameras are in that area and provide that information to the responding people. So this helps us tremendously. Just to give you an idea of how we utilize that, is that he's able to provide, suspect information, vehicle information, as officers are responding. So we're seeing that in real time as we go versus getting there, trying to calm the situation down, figure out, what the suspect information is and so forth. And there's been several cases, success stories, I guess I would call them, that we've used this to, effectively navigate through the investigation, lead to arrests and things like that nature. So it's also increased our time, enhanced our time to where we can do that much faster and much quicker. And it's really been tremendous help for us. It also brings in community engagement piece. So there's some features in the trial period that we had with the Fusus platform that we've implemented so far. For example, the multimedia text tip line. So people can, instead of just Crime Stoppers, we can also use text-to-tip, so where they can text in photos or videos. And it's not anonymous, but at least it's a way to provide that information. Emergency mass notification, for example, is another feature that we have not implemented yet, but we plan to in the future. So we recently signed the contract with Fusus after the trial period, and we plan on doing a full marketing campaign to get it out there to the community, all the benefits and features of it, so that they're aware of the capabilities of the system and how to help us by utilizing that system. And now we'll go into a brief demo of the Fusus platform. So this is, for example, City Hall cameras. We have access to, we can see the publicly accessible areas that we're able to look at: parking garages, entrance, exit ways, and we can click through the page. It just gives you an idea of what we see. So if there's an incident that someone calls in and says, hey, there's, someone unauthorized entering the building, or, God forbid, an active shooter or something like that, we're able to get that real-time information and utilize that. Another example, one of the facilities we have access to is Haynes Mill Waste Facility. So we can see some of these photos here, gives you an idea of what we're seeing. It takes a minute to switch in between the cameras, but
Is this a live feed?
yes.
Wow.
So it's very, very helpful, if you can only imagine from our perspective, when we're responding, to see this information and be able to provide that and know what we're dealing with as we're going into it. And I actually wanted him to show you this one, just so you could see. So the benefit to this system also is on the bottom right, where you see the red bar across it. That alerts us immediately if a camera's down. So we don't have a situation where something happened and we go back to get video for some reason and, the camera's down, and then we, have to go back and figure it out. This tells us right away when the camera's down. We work with Fusus and IT to correct that problem relatively quickly, and we're able to get it back online. So it's pretty easy. It's all cloud-based.
I mean, if I can ask a question, so who does the physical maintenance on the cameras? Is that?
This is all existing camera infrastructure that's already city-owned. So whether it's public or private. So the good thing is we're not investing the police department, in terms of the real-time crime center, is not investing the money in additional or the existing camera infrastructure. So how we incorporate these video feeds is through a core device. It's about the size of a shoebox, I guess you could compare it to, that ingests those camera feeds straight into the real-time crime center. And they're relatively, in the grand scheme of things, inexpensive. They range anywhere from $250 for up to 4 camera feeds to typically it's about $600 for up to 30 camera feeds, and about $6,000 if you want one that has artificial intelligence on it. So if we were searching for, white male with a blue backpack, for instance, walking at a certain time frame, it could search the images in that camera and give it to us relatively quickly.
Thank you.
This is the 14th Street Rec Center. Gives you an indication of some of the views we have there. Very helpful in terms of the rec centers, and in case we have any incidents at the rec centers, again, publicly accessible areas, the basketball court, the entranceway, things like that. In the top right corner, you'll see is just a different view. It's a fisheye camera, just a different view that we're able to see. And lastly, we'll show you Corporating Plaza in this very clear view, and if you'll show them the high def. So if we click on one of these images here, it gives us a high definition view. So when you're looking at them in the 4-pane window, that's a lower resolution, but this is a high definition where we can zoom in, and actually if we have like a suspicious package or a certain person with something that we're trying to figure out if it's a weapon or something of that nature, that we can use this feature to zoom in and get a better eye, so we know, what kind of weapon it may be, or what kind of package, if we need to notify bombs or something like that.
Okay, Ms. Mundy, you had a question?
Are these cameras monitored actively, or are they used after the fact to review?
Right now, the real-time crime center is not staffed 24/7. Ultimately, that'd be a perfect world goal, but due to staffing, we're just not able to do that, so it's not monitored 24/7 right now. Typically, we monitor CAD, which is our dispatch. When the calls for service are dispatched, we can automatically, CAD calls are also in the Fusus One platform on the main map. So when Detective Ferguson is working in the real-time crime center, that call comes out, he can automatically see where that call is located and then see what cameras are in the area.
It would seem adding this many additional cameras, if we're going to monitor actively, would mean a difference in staffing. So I think we just need to take that into consideration as we're looking at all our budgets.
Can I mention, all video is archived. They can go back.
Right.
And I'll mention that for example, these cameras, they work on motion detection. So right now, they're just sitting there, so they're not sending constant live feed. We're not storing this in the cloud. But if someone were to walk by, then the video kicks in.
Good to know. Thank
We
you.
have used that feature in several of the cases where we've had an incident happen, maybe when the real-time crime center wasn't staffed for whatever reason. And the key to that is also we can access that remotely. So if there is an incident that's an emergency, Detective Ferguson or I can access that remotely, whether, from home, or if we decide it's necessary to come in, we can do that. And it's also accessible from a mobile device as well.
It just seems that that's very reactionary. I would love to be able to use these cameras as a preventive and preemptive measure wherever possible. And if we're going to do that, I think we would need more monitoring as opposed to reviewing after an incident happens. I would love to move in that
And
direction.
we've used it in both respects, proactively and reactively. One example I can give you from a proactive response, kind of similar to what I just mentioned, but there was a kidnapping that was dispatched, and we had cameras in the area. And so officers were able to get on the cameras right then and there and provide that information that it was a true, legitimate kidnapping, a domestic situation, and a vehicle pursuit was initiated, and they were able to apprehend the victim unharmed within 2 miles in like 5 minutes of the incident that actually occurred.
That's great. Thank you.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have suggested or talked with the city manager, with us having the theater festival coming up this year, some of the things you're already doing, we have to look at public safety. Public safety 3 years ago is different from public safety, as you know, now in the new world. We have more shootings, drive-bys, crime. And one of the things that, and I'm glad to see, we're going to have probably more cameras. I've even suggested that we cordon off downtown like they do at big events like golf tournaments and other major events, concerts, that people have to park somewhere, get on a bus, and come downtown and walk. Now, I'm sure the logistics have to be worked out for ADA and on others, but we need to start looking at that. If you know, we got that FEMA grant, oh God, it's been how long now? 5 years, 5 or 6 years ago? Winston-Salem was awarded the largest FEMA grant for emergency management in the country. And one of the things that when they took us through the training up at Camp David for a week, they showed videos of things that city officials, public safety, emergency management should be looking at, responders, in that how many cameras, they talked about it, how many cameras do you have that actually can give you information when there is a suspicious van or truck parked at your landfill, parked at your hospital, parked downtown, middle of the street or side street, and nobody knows it because there's nothing monitoring it. So I am very, very happy to see us moving in this direction. Reminds me of RoboCop, that we don't have a lot of actual human police and safety people like we've always had. So we've got to go to the next level. I thank you, and with that, Chair, I make a motion for
We have a
approval.
motion to have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and my time's about up. If we'll please vote on this. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
will start behaving better in City Hall. I didn't know I
I doubt that.
always wear a tie.
I doubt that.
Okay, everybody, please vote. That is approved. Thank you. That was the last item. In about 3 minutes.
We'll take a quick recess, and public safety will begin around
Mrs.
6:10.
I did have a question, and maybe I guess it's for
6:10.
Attorney Carmen. The cameras do remind you of Big Brother watching you. To what degree must we tell the public about our cameras and that they are watching people going and coming? If you don't have to answer it today, maybe you can just give us
I'll provide some information
a memo
later.
on that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. In a few minutes, we'll start public safety.